this on at 86 and a quarter 6 months ago. Today it is trading at 36 and a half. Mr.
They called it Black Monday. By 4 p.m., the market had dropped 508 points, the biggest plummet since the crash of '29.
I know your family, you know mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're going to talk about cold comics, and more specifically, if we, the comic book market, can actually tell if certain key issues are going down in value. And if they are, what are some of the best metrics that we can use to determine if those books are dropping off in price? But before I get into the video for today, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into this topic here today. Now, I decided to make this video because I was recently watching an auction on eBay for a Tales to Astonish number 35 in a CGC 3.0 grade. For those who don't know, that's the first Ant-Man in costume. And typically this book has generally been selling around the $1,000 range, within the last, say, couple months or so. But, the live auction that I was watching ended up finishing for only $580, which was a total shock to me. And it really got me thinking, did this book just drop 50% in its value? And can we now classify this thing as a cold comic book? Well, I'm not really so sure that we can. And so in this video, I kind of wanted to talk about, maybe some other measurements that we can use to figure out if comic books are, cold in the market, and conversely, if they're actually really hot in the market. Now, from time to time, I will use percentage drops as a way to evaluate, certain comic books in the market. I think a lot of us do, and I think that is a very helpful tool for us to value certain books in the market, but I don't think it is the only tool. And in this video, I kind of want to share what I think is probably a better way to measure what those books' values are in the market, and if in fact they are really dropping or getting cold. So let me first show you guys the book that I was watching in this market right here. And this, of course, was the Tales to Astonish number 35. It was a book that, for me, it's on my list. It's something that I really, would love to have in my collection, but, I wasn't ready to necessarily make the purchase. I just was watching this in the market so I could get a sense of where the values are. Now, this book in particular went for $580. It finished at 8 p.m. on February 27th. So, it was kind of a late night auction, maybe not a lot of people watching it, but, for $580, someone got an absolute steal. Because if we look at this book here on Go Collect, we can see that at the 3.0 range, the last couple sales for this thing were much, much higher than that. We can see, here in September of 29, this book sells for $1,020 on Heritage Auction. Then in December of 28, it sells for $1,320 at another Heritage Auction. Then January 25th, $1,080. And then February 6th, $884 on an eBay auction. And then now February 27th, it goes for $580 on an eBay auction. And so this is kind of really the question to me of does this book really feel like it's dropped off 50% in value? Or is this something that, just happened to squeeze by in the market? And really, when we think about this, how many sales are we really talking about here in these last 6 months or so? We're talking about literally 5 sales. So can we really make a good determination for, this book in the market? And can we really say that this book is cooling off when we have a sample size like the one that we do, which is effectively just 5 sales in the market? And I think, we as comic book collectors often view comics as like the stock market, and we think about it in terms of sales record highs and sales record lows and what percentages they are and how much they shift in the market. But to me, I think that we should be looking at comics, more in line with how the art world views their particular assets. And I kind of just wanted to pull up an article for you guys that I thought was really interesting. This might be a little bit boring, so I won't focus, too much on this overall, but I do think it is interesting to sort of highlight. So this is an article on the art gallery by this guy, Robert McIntosh. That's not really too important, but the title of the article is Liquidity in the Art Market. And if we just go down here, there's a couple things that I want to point out. He's talking about how do we evaluate if a certain, piece of art is actually, being highly valued in the market, or how do we evaluate, if a certain piece of art is actually going down in value. And one of the things that he talks about is right here is in the bold. You can see unsold rate. This is something that he talks about in this article a lot. I'll just to paraphrase, and he also has this other metric, which is the BI rate, or otherwise known as the bought-in rate. And basically the premise of the unsold rate and the bought-in rate that he is using is basically saying how many of these pieces on the market do exist out there for people to get. In other words, how much inventory is actually out there and available to people who actually want to buy it. So let's say that we're looking at a book like Tales to Astonish number 35 that sells for $580. And I'm like, oh my God, this book is dropping 50% in its value. Let me hop over to eBay and jump on this thing before it starts to go up again. And if I actually were to do that, I would be pretty disappointed overall, because what I actually did right here is you can see Tales to Astonish 35. I do buy it now, lowest price. And what do I come across? Can I actually find this book being sold at $580 at that, particular grade level, which was a 3.0? Well, unfortunately, I can't. In fact, the lowest price I can actually find on the market right now for a book like this is 1.5 grade, and it is available to me for $800. So, next one is a 2.0, $867, then an $875 for a 2.5, and then I have to go all the way down here to $1,070. Maybe they'll take a best offer, but generally speaking, we're at the four-figure range in order to buy this book. So to me, when we look at, the unsold potential of the value of this book and where it actually sits in the market, it's actually a lot more in line to, some of the prices that it was going for, say a couple months ago in that $1,000 range. And this book right here being sold for $580 on an eBay auction is kind of an anomaly number. I don't really know if it's a good way for us to determine that this book has dropped off 50% in its value. And it's not just this book in particular. There are other books in the market that have been deemed as cold keys, so to speak. We all know Tales of Suspense number 50, First Appearance of the Mandarin, is a book that, has really quote unquote fallen off in price after the fact that the Mandarin died in the movie Shang-Chi. And if we look at like some of the values here, I'll just go down to, some of these low grade values. You can see the 3.0 grade, which is one that I got back from CGC. Fair market value for this now suggests it to be $250. And if we look at the reason why this book has gone so much or fallen off the cliff, so to speak, as you can see from this graph right here, is you can see there was a sale in October 6th of 2021 for $450. And then in November, this book actually went on eBay on a live auction bid, one bid right there, for $255. So we're talking about a 50% drop for the 3.0 grade. But when I go over to eBay, if I type in Tales to Suspense 50 and I look at the buy it now, it's not so easy for me to be able to find, a 3.0 grade being sold at that level. In fact, the cheapest I could potentially find this book in a, slab, so to speak, is this one right here, a CBCS one at a 2.0 grade that's being sold for $384. Here's a CGC 1.8 being sold for $400. And then let's just see if I can find, okay, here's a 4.0 for $424. Here's a 3.0 for $449. But with these two books right here, you can kind of see that, it's really going to still take us around the $400 price range to get this book in our collection today. So I'm not really sure, how much stock we need to be putting into, like, say, a book dropping from 450 to 255, and if that really is a good metric, where rather we can say, okay, let's look at the fair market value for the 4.0, which is 500. Let's look at the fair market value for the 3.0, which is 250. And what is the actual market price that is available to us, and how close that fair market value is to that market price? I think, to me, that is really the true metric of like whether we can determine if a book is, hot or if a book is cold. If we think about whatever the fair market value for that actual book is, and then we go over to the market and we can find that particular book at a market price that is lower than that of the fair market value, well, that to me is going to be a good indication if the book is actually cold, because, that means that there's a lot of people who are on the market trying to sell their book, and they're just trying to sell it for even less than what is, the fair market of it. Conversely, if a book is really hot, and you can't find it at a fair market value price range, and people have it priced like way over above fair market value, that's probably a decent indication that the book is actually really hot. And of course, I'm more specifically highlighting some Silver Age books right here, ones that do have less inventory on the market, and generally they're going to have, bigger swings in high to low sales. But, just because there was a low sale that someone was able to get at a steal doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get that book at that price. But there are some books that are kind of on the newer side of the things, like Copper Age and things like that, that we can look at to determine if they are cooling off in the market. And, the book that I feel like we just constantly talk about here on this channel is the Moon Knight #1. But this one I think is really interesting because we can see the 9.8 fair market value for this suggests it's around the $900 range. 30-day moving, however, is $921. But if I go onto eBay and I sort by buy it now, I can actually find one copy in a 9.8 grade sitting at $860. The next copy that I would be able to find is $995. So, this This is not necessarily an indication to me that the book is going down in value because this is only just one book available on the market. But to me, this is a better metric to use in terms of like, okay, the fair market value price is 900 and I can actually find a market price on eBay that is being sold for less than that. So that's kind of all I really have for this video. That was just me sort of talking about, can we really evaluate what books are cold in the market? I think it's a lot easier to evaluate, cold books that have higher inventory, higher volume of sales, things that are like modern books and things like that. But when it comes to like Bronze Age and Silver Age books, we really have to look at like how much inventory is out there and how close to the market price is the fair market value, and are things transacting at around that same level. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the whole idea of like cold comic books and hot comic books and record highs and record lows? Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.